So what I'd like to do next, again, we're in a state of emergency because of the floods, the 16th, Sunday the 16th. I'd like to have just a quick update, and I want to remind everybody this is not a recap. This isn't the summary of the end. This is an update during the middle of the response and recovery work. So I have a couple folks I'd like to come up. So first I'm going to have our public information officer, Tamara, come up and talk a little bit about one of the most important things in emergencies is getting the information out. And I want to remind everybody, when we had the shooting at the college, Commissioner Boyce and I were 9 months into this job. Commissioner Morgan had been here for a while. We had no public information on our side of the building at all. The county government didn't have a public information officer. We didn't have an e-newsletter list. We didn't have a Facebook page. We had nothing. The sheriff's office had a public information officer. I will tell you the amount of work they've done to expand their reach in communicating with the public has been incredible. But we went from nothing to what you're going to hear today, and there's always room for improvement. But I will tell you, the ability during an emergency to communicate with the public is paramount, and our public information team does a really good job with that. So Tamara, would you or somebody like to come up and
I'm also going to
Brad come
invite
too?
my cohort from the
Perfect, Brad's
sheriff's
the
office.
sheriff, and he's the public information officer for the sheriff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tamara Howell, Public Information Officer for Douglas County. I have been asked to provide a to-date summary of the public information responses for the March 2025 flood event. I'm sure you will all hear and have already heard from different county cohorts regarding the all hands on deck coordinated response to the March 16th flood. I'm going to briefly recap some of the response timeline in order to provide a context to the crucial role of public information officers during emergency events. In the early daylight hours of Sunday, March 16th, reports started coming in about mass flooding, road closures, debris flows, slides, residents trapped by floodwaters, power and water outages, and people in need of rescue. As with any emergency situation, the first priority is always resident safety. The Douglas County Commissioners, local first responders, and several county departments, including Public Works, were all engaged and on alert for a potential disaster way before the event started on Friday, March 14th, and were prepared to activate an emergency response mode if necessary. Early on March 16th, a command base was designated. Operations, planning, logistics, communications, and finance teams were established by the Douglas County Commissioners, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Douglas County Emergency Management Team. While DCSO worked diligently with the area's first responders assessing and responding to 911 calls, emergency situations and possible rescues and welfare checks, Douglas County Public Works crews and local contractors were already deployed to start working and clearing and repairing roads, as well as posting signs to divert traffic away from flooded areas. Concurrently, the commissioners, DCSO officials, and emergency management staff were leading the response, communicating with cities, directing and finding resources, triaging issues, and working on emergency declaration. Another critical component of an emergency response team is the communications and the centralization of public information. Under Sheriff Brad Odell was quickly designated as the lead public information officer, or the PIO, for the first phase of the emergency event, which included public safety just after daylight on Sunday, March 16th. A PIO is responsible for disseminating accurate, timely, and consistent information to the public, media, and other stakeholders. A PIO manages media inquiries, unifies information for all agencies involved, provides updates, issues press releases, and oversees social media communication. In short, the PIO plays a critical role in ensuring effective and coordinated communications during an emergency response. The first notice about flooding was reported on the DCSO Facebook page around 8:49 a.m. and shared by the Douglas County Facebook page in a coordinated effort. DCSO continued to manage special media notices and hosted several Facebook Live events as needed throughout the first day. They also issued targeted emergency alerts to Douglas County residents via the Wireless Emergency Alert, WEA, an emergency alert system, the EAS, and the Douglas Alert System. Once the critical life-saving phase was concluded, well, as we could get, the event moved into the next stage, which also meant a change in the PIO role. Under Sheriff Odell handed the PIO role over to me for Douglas County at about 11 a.m. Monday morning, this March 17th. It was now my responsibility to continue the dissemination of accurate, timely, and consistent information to the public, media, and other stakeholders. This became a part of my daily routine for the next 2 weeks. My outreach included releasing and posting daily updates to all of our media avenues, which we have several, to try to reach everybody we can. Direct mail lists, flash alert, constant contact e-newsletters, social media pages, 211 info, and our Douglas County website. One of the most critical locations on the Douglas County website is our emergency alert banner that's at the top of our page. I activated and populated this page and provided quick and easy access to updated, pertinent, and timely information for our residents. This bar is activated during all county emergencies and is a valuable resource tool for our residents. We also made sure to update our press release logs and add the latest update to our news flash section of our website. Access to information is important, and we quickly recognized that we needed a resource line for residents to call. Through our emergency manager, Emily, I worked with the Oregon Office of Emergency Management, PIO staff, to write and continually update a script for the 24-hour 211 information call line that helped us. As you have noticed, I didn't host any Facebook Live events while serving as our PIO for this emergency on my side. It's stark contrast to what Brad here does. We all have our own areas of expertise, and I honestly couldn't even come close to competing with Under Sheriff Odell's perfect hair. So I'll gladly leave the role of Douglas County Facebook Administrator to him. However, I know many of us would like to know how you keep it so perfect. Okay, back to my summary. I also fielded calls and coordinated media requests for interviews. Our office designated coordinating graphics for flyers and social media. You might have seen the mission critical graphic floating around on Facebook. Hopefully it got your attention, and hopefully all of you that were affected or impacted by the flood have completed the homeowner and or business, church, or nonprofit damage surveys. Additionally, as a part of our role in helping the response team, our office is responsible for archiving information, including photo and video documentation of flood damaged areas, capturing aerial footage, and working with the GIS team. And I couldn't have done that without my cohort, Kelly Trinkle, in my office. This is truly a coordinated effort, and here is kind of a recap of the statistics to date of our communication efforts in Douglas County. The total number of emails sent out to the public, whether direct flash alert or through our e-newsletter subscription base, was 166,077. Total number of updates we issued in the last 2 weeks were 18. Total social media engagements, we had 1,356,992 views on our posts, 978 likes, and 4,800 shares. We had a total of 16 media requests from all over the state, including Portland to Medford, Eugene, and Roseburg, with as well as our local stations. We conducted 5 radio interviews, which included Emily Ring, our emergency manager, Scott Adams, our public works director, and of course, Brad Odell, our undersheriff. The undersheriff hosted 3 Facebook Live events in the first day, and they also issued 5 emergency alerts on the first day. 4 were targeted to very specific jurisdictions in heavily flooded areas, and 1 was an all-county wireless emergency alert, which is a notice that's sent to all active cell phones in our area, and approximately 119,000 cell phone numbers were accessed. The emergency alert system was also utilized to notify TV and radio stations to issue a public service announcement. And our Douglas Alert system was utilized to send notices to all landline phones and subscribers. So we also had a letter that we sent out to ask for your requests for your surveys so that we could meet our threshold to hopefully apply for funding coming in. We sent out 50,000 emails just for that letter alone, and that was shared at least 350 times on Facebook. And we know forwarding approximately 1,500 emails were forwarded from that. A total of the photos and video flood footage, we had 315 aerial photos that were taken, 43 aerial videos capturing short clips of damage for a total length of 93 minutes of footage. And in another part of our job is that we were also asked to capture and archive photos from around the county with the help of people like Roseburg Tracker and Kellogg Fire Department, Volunteer Fire Department, who have gladly shared their photos with us. We have built a database of over 400 photos that our community took of the disaster in their area, and we will archive those. Any questions?
That's pretty darn incredible. Brad, did you have anything to add?
The only thing I would say is this is truly a coordinated effort, working in partnership with all of the county departments, all of the emergency response organizations. Commissioners, I know you were actively engaged and readily accessible. This is how this county works. Anytime that there's any type of emergency or disaster, it's coordinated, it's thoughtful, and swift in response. I appreciate the partnership with Tamara and Kelly and the whole PIO team. There's a number of folks at the county that I could name, but I just want to say I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be part of this team and to be part of the response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions of the, great. So next, thank you very much. I'm gonna ask up Scott Adams, our Public Works Director, for again, this is just an update, it's not a recap. He's still, him and his team and the contractors they're working with are still out doing the work today, so thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm gonna kind of start off with a little bit of a story and kind of talk about this, how it kind of occurred and started up. When I get into the middle of it, I'll give you the thumbs up when I start that slideshow. So Thursday, March 13th, let's go back. So every year, every weekend, when we start seeing events come up where we might get a little weather or storms or something, both Public Works, myself, Garrett McGraw, our road manager, and the supervisors are keeping an eye on the weather and the outlook of the weather. We get NOAA updates. Emily Ring, our emergency manager, gives us updates often and numerous updates throughout the week of what weekend events might happen. Thursday on the 13th, NOAA sent out a brief notice of potential weather coming into Southern Oregon. Nothing really triggering to us of what we would anticipate or what we're actually gonna see. As always, we're ready, we're on board, we're ready to kick up at any time. Friday, March 14th, as we get rolling into the weekend and closing down shop from our regular maintenance, we get updates again from NOAA saying, hey, it's gonna be heavy rains projected Friday through Sunday. That changed on Saturday where NOAA then updated and said, hey, we're gonna start getting, expect stream flooding potential through the weekend into Monday, all the way maybe into the 17th. And we've had a couple instances earlier this year, where we've had large amounts of rain that have had some minor flooding. About a month and a half ago. This year's been a little bit of a nuance of a year for moisture for us. We had a heavy rainfall in October and November, even more in December. January was a little alright, but we had some snow here and there, and then we get into March and we have this other rainfall event. So the saturation levels of all the soils around Douglas County this year have peaked multiple times. And so it didn't take much rain for those soils to be saturated and to give us the conditions that we started seeing Saturday night. Saturday night, we started experiencing the flooding and the rain, and the rain really didn't stop throughout the weekend. Early in the morning, our crews started receiving phone calls as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m. of flooding throughout the county. And so we started getting out into the field around 7 a.m. on Sunday. We had about 90% of our staff in the field already, putting up signs in probably a couple hundred locations like what this one in the picture is, just for flooding. with the flooding going on, we're starting to anticipate that some more issues were gonna occur with slides and road failures and culverts plugged and items like that. And while we have a lot of culverts and stuff throughout Douglas County, I think we have like 9,000 culverts. Most of them handle the load that we typically have, but it's a challenge keeping them cleaned and cleared. But this is more water than those culverts were ever designed to handle, and so as you can see, that water there was almost over top of that bridge, and that bridge is very high off of Deer Creek. And I don't believe that bridge has ever been topped over from Deer Creek, and I believe later that day it was. So that went up another 3 or 4 feet, if I'm correct.
That video that you were just seeing was about 30 minutes after peak. The water was lapping over the bridge and it had just receded to the point where it was just running into the bridge.
So that was a all-time historic high for Deer Creek. So as we go into Sunday in the morning, we have all the public work crews out. I'm already on the phone with the Board of Commissioners. We're discussing what's coming. On the phone with Emily. We're starting to ramp up. We get to 8 a.m. and we're already starting to call local contractors in to start dealing with what we're seeing coming down into the roadway. A lot of sites like these mudslides and pop outs were occurring everywhere. By 10 a.m. An emergency declaration had been given by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. It really gives us a green light to throttle up everything and put the full horsepower of Public Works and the county towards these events. So we actually had ran out of signs for floods. We had probably a couple hundred signs out for floodwaters, trying to keep people from driving into certain areas and detour people around. There was a lot of water going into people's houses. The cities were getting engaged, or were having the same experiences as we were. ODOT was getting inundated with water as well. It was causing slides on those areas. By about noon on Sunday, one of our larger events was the loss of Hubbard Creek Road, a full section of road. Go in and play that. The road completely washed out. We dispatched Knife River to Hubbard Creek. That's Hubbard Creek Road around the 3500 block right there. Had to get the power out of the way. We actually had a Public Works Road employee up in that area. We had to walk him out and get him out of there until we could get this road open back up. The Knife River crew worked all night into the morning. They got the road open by 11 p.m. As soon as they got the road open, we started dispatching crews up the rest of the way up Hubbard Creek with Knife River, because there was much more severe damage up Hubbard Creek than just that one slide. We had large debris flows like this one here. That large debris flow came off of burnt ONC land. This is just right up the road. Another debris flow came off the hillside. Didn't matter what the hillside looked like, it all came down. There's rocks the size of Volkswagens sitting there. They're down into this farmer's field. This farmer got hit really hard with a lot of material in their field. This went from the 6,000 block all the way up to the 9,000 block with numerous pop out slides in the road. Ditches of the year were either irrigated out, like scoured out, so some ditches were 2 feet deeper than they've always ever been, and some were plugged with rocks and slides and whatnot. As we move up the road a little further, there's a clogged culvert that we've been working on twice this year already and replaced the culvert in it. at the 9,000 block. Just a second on the slide. That culvert had plugged up again. Much more material came down, covered the road, covered the property owner's property into their house and stuff. We're able to get Knife River up there to clean that up, and then above that, there's a bridge before the Bear Creek Bridge that had probably 110 truckloads of wood debris stuffed in it and plugged up, and so the whole creek was running over the road and bypassing the creek, and we had to get that unplugged. So that was some of our major concerns, so we didn't lose more of the road. Knife River's still up there this week with 4 or 5 crews hammering this thing out, trying to get it cleaned back, continue to clean up. And this is one of many, many areas that we have that we're working on. I have a list of about 110 or so project sites. Even up to yesterday, I added 2 more slides to that list, or our team did. We had I'll go back into the week on my storyline here. By Tuesday, we had upwards of 15 contractors, 100 plus people on the ground, 70 plus pieces of equipment and iron. We had our 50 or so county employees with all of our equipment, rebuilding roads, unplugging culverts, ditches, a continuation of moving signs throughout the county, because now as the water recedes, we still have these high water signs out. And then we were watching the weather a little bit, and there was some anticipation another storm was coming, so we were really trying to crank things up and make sure that we were gonna be able to weather another smaller event. We had that do that to us before with Snowmageddon, and it really those second waves really put us backwards. And so we were gearing up to make sure that we had everybody on site, the contractors were knowing what's coming, and fortunately, the weather didn't hit us as hard as we thought, and so we were able to keep focusing on a lot of these areas that had these slides that we're already working on. We're looking at upwards of close to $5 million in damages just to the county roadways. That's just the road infrastructure itself. That's not what the cities are seeing, what ODOT's seeing, what private homeowners, private property owners are, what they're all seeing. Those numbers for them are great as well. I had a meeting with Emily, and I were on the radio with on KQN the Wednesday of that week, I believe, and they asked me, said, what's the worst area in Douglas County? And I said, well, Douglas County. There was basically a slide on, or a pop out, or a plug culvert, or flooding on every road. Every road was inundated, somewhat like Snowmageddon, but worse, because Snowmageddon, snow melted, and we just had to deal with trees, where this is mud and trees, and a little bit different situation. We've been hardened with tasks with trying to find areas to put the mud and the rock and the debris. We've been spending a lot of time trying to figure that stuff out and where to take all that material. We have, like this slide right here on that one, that was Garden Valley Road. It's still sliding today. We're still working on it. We're trying to get some resources, some geotech involved with that one to help us give us a little bit better of an idea of what's really happening there, so we can give it a better repair. Some of these areas we'll be able to just clean up and move along, and others will actually put some rock buttresses in and be able to stabilize the road.
Hey, Robin Losnack from Kellogg Fire here. Reports of multiple slides in the area and water on the roadway.
Great segue.
That's all it puts.
Says it better than I did. So we get into like some of the areas, obviously we talked about Hubbard Creek. We also had, half the road on Melquaw wash out. Over that time, the water across from River Forks actually went over top of Melquaw Road. As that water receded, it pulled the road down with it, which happens a lot. That's a common thing with high water. And it took half the road out. The up on Callahan, between a 1200 block and a 2000, we had lots of road slides up there. Garden Valley at the mile point 11, which we saw a picture of earlier, has 3 large slides on it, kind of a condensed area. Upper Smith River, between mile point 2 and 7 had 4 slides on it. One of them took out half the road. The slide up there was 35 feet deep and 120 feet long, in a really steep section of the roadway. Bullock Road had a bunch, Tyee Road had a bunch, Maupin Road has a washout. Goodrich Highway has a pretty big slide on it. That's the one we just picked up this last week, a couple days here we've been working on. Nonpareil has multiple slides on it. Cooper Creek Road, Roberts Creek. I have just kind of a list of what our project tracker looks like. It's 2 pages long and fine print. Like I said, there's 104 areas and 40-50 roads. So that that's kind of a gist of where we're at. We're probably what was interesting though is after Hubbard Creek got to the single lane within I would say the end of the day, Sunday or first of Monday, we had almost everything back to 1 lane, at least travel, and most of the water had receded to where we could start getting the signs picked up. Within Tuesday, Hubbard Creek was open to 2 lanes. Like I said, we moved the iron into Hubbard Creek as soon as we could. Melquaw was open to 2 lanes on Wednesday, and we were able to get up to Upper Smith River and get it up to 2 lanes by the end of that week, by Friday, and get those gravelled in. We still have a lot of cleanup work. We have a lot of gravel roads out there that should be paved. We'll be still continuing working for a while to keep these areas cleaned up. We have a lot of ditches that are scoured out that'll take a while to repair. We have a lot of culverts plugged. In the residential areas, we have manholes that are silted in. We'll be flushing, trying to get out to some more longer term things that will affect us in the future if we don't jump on those because they were all silted in from these floods. Working into some other pieces that Public Works has to offer, and there was a picture of Galesville up there. Galesville Dam and Berry Creek Dam are 2 reservoirs that are operated and maintained by Douglas County for hydropower for Galesville and water sales for irrigators, as well as flood control. We had the flood when we started seeing the waters come up. We were getting a peak of we had 150 CFS on Saturday coming into Galesville there, and it increased to 5,500 CFS. The reservoir increased elevation by 12 feet within like 8 or 10 hours. And we kept the spillway closed off for quite a while because the tributaries coming into Cow Creek below had increased so much that it was already starting to flood the Glendale and Riddle area. They were seeing peak levels down there, so we held off the dam trying to catch the weather just right. It was a little bit of a roll of the dice whether or not the dam was actually gonna get overtopped, which is kind of a historic thing we don't like to see. The dam's not made to spill over. And we were within 8 inches of it spilling over, and the weather got us just right. And as soon as the tributaries below the dam crested, we started turning up the water to keep it from overspilling. But our hydraulic models predicted that we were 1.5 to 2 feet less of a flood or elevation of floodwaters to Glendale. And that's quite a bit when you're talking water. That's in somebody's front living room probably, where it probably wouldn't have been. So the dam did what it was supposed to do. Our team down there, they were running through the night and then the next morning keeping it up, monitoring it, all the gauging stations that we work so hard to maintain and operate throughout the year did their jobs. So Glendale did, and Galesville did a really good job. We were able to spin the turbines up, both turbines and the cone, which is the water spraying all the way out there. That's our cone valve. So we had both turbines going in that cone valve, and we were cranking out the water, about 1,300 CFS to keep it from overtopping. It's about the max we can get out of there, I believe. Yeah. So what's it looking like from here out? Right now we have 7 contractors still active, and I'll talk about those contractors and our staff here in a second, but so we have about 7 contractors and still a full county staff, working together on some projects, and some others we're spot checking with our county staff, and the contractors are doing the heavy lifting. Hubbard Creek's still active. We still got a lot of work going on up there. I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of this week, at least to where that contractor can mobilize out. Upper Smith River still has a little bit of work to do on it. Non-Perel has still has some rock going in on some of the slides out there, and then we also found another shoulder slump with that's putting the city of Sutherland's water line in jeopardy. So we've been working with the city of Sutherland on how we want to organize a contractor to stabilize that shoulder of that road in the 7,000 block. There's a slide repair on Cooper Creek Road that we're still working on. Hopefully get it wrapped up this week. And then Garden Valley and Goodrich Highway, those are gonna be a little bit longer term slide repairs on those. It may take us a month or so to get those figured out, what we wanna do and fixed. The good thing that comes of this, that we prepare for and we practice all the time on a daily event with our public works teams, and I have to commend those guys to what they do. My road manager, the supervisors, the crews, they are, when it comes to these, they pick it up. They bring a level of intensity to going after repairing roads like no other. They're commendable. And then on top of that, we have about a dozen on-call contracts that we work on through the year. And as soon as we started making calls, we had iron hitting the ground within the hour, with local contractors helping us out, getting in front of all these slides and stuff. And then throughout the day, it was just phone call after phone call. Staff did a commendable job organizing and trying to figure out who to send where. When you have that many sites, it's a lot of work. You have a lot of information coming in. We have to put a lot of information together, because if this turns into a FEMA and a federally funded emergency event, we'll try to recover any funding we can with that, and that takes a lot of information to be able to track those and hold people in the slide of areas accountable for what was spent where. So, yeah.
Scott, thank you, and to your team. It's amazing. I mean, this all kicked off in the early hours Sunday morning, and the fact that most of your folks were available and came in, they weren't vacationing, they weren't somewhere else, they were actually here in the community, was incredible. The work that you do and we have done over time to make sure we have those on-call contractors available so you can surge capacity in is pretty, you don't think about it when you're doing those, those annual updating of the contracts, and all that work is just sort of business work that we do here, but we do that so that when there is an emergency, you and your team can surge capacity in to take care of the people of this county. I know, one of the biggest concerns from the emergency management side, we're gonna hear from Emily next, is, getting people to where they can get in and out of their homes if they're having medical emergencies or just for whatever reason. And one of your goals, of course, is to get one lane open so that can happen. And I believe by the next morning, 8 or 9 o'clock, by Monday morning, you had one lane open on every road that had houses past the closure. So pretty incredible work. Again, some folks worked throughout the night, some of the contractors and some of your people, and continue to put long hours in. I know we have looked at some of those number of hours you and your team have put in. I don't know if you have any of that, but it's pretty wild.
I have some stats. It's, you know, for the public works employees themselves, just for that first week, their regular hours would have been around 2,100 hours for those 12 or 13 employees that had a lot of hours, and they had 400 overtime hours. My division manager, he put 40 hours of overtime in the first week. I think he was 40 hours in by Wednesday, and I'm not sure he remembers how much he put in, but that's about what I was tracking. The supervisors put in another 150, 200 hours. We're looking at close to 800 to 1,000 hours just on 30 or 40 employees in a week,
Yeah.
a week's time. And so they and they did really great with that, and fortunately we did it very, very safe. That's one thing that always is a little bit scary is when you're putting in that much time and people are that run down and that tired and whatnot, that we don't have any accidents. And we've done very well at making sure we stay in front of that, and we're keeping an eye on each other too, so.
Thank you. Questions of the commissioners?
No, I just, a real comment, you kinda understated, you know, besides the kudos to your team, which was really good, you know, I gotta really send some kudos out to past commissioners. The fact that they put in that dam, Galesville, when you're talking about holding back 5,000 CFS, it would have went into Cow Creek and would have, the amount of damage to Glendale and Riddle would have been astronomical. I mean, that,
And Myrtle Creek and right on down the line, yeah.
but 12 feet in elevation change in one day out of a dam is pretty incredible. So, you know, I mean, I wish we had more of them.
Yeah, when I think it would have added 30 to 40% more flow to that area down in Glendale, so I mean that.
Which would have then impacted the South Umpqua. The South Umpqua would have been up higher and would have dammed up Deer Creek worse and would have inundated it all. So it did its job, and I just don't wanna understate that.
Any other secondary and tertiary effects, yeah.
Thank you. So I'm gonna thank you, and I'm gonna invite Emily up, our emergency manager, and while she's coming up, I wanna remind everybody that we have evolved our emergency management to being its own department level now, so it's its own department. Historically, it had been under the sheriff's department. They did really great work. And the idea of moving emergency management to its own department was really just a capacity building concept. It's interesting, state of Oregon did the same thing. So when I was in the legislature, the emergency management was under the military department. Now it is its own full agency at the state. So they saw some of that same need there to respond. So I will ask Emily to come up and give us a quick snapshot and recognize that you are fully in emergency mode and know that this is not gonna be all inclusive. So thank you for your time and the work that you've been doing this past several weeks.
I've heard from a few people that I did too little, and I've heard from a few folks that I did too much. So I'm taking a rare opportunity to kind of share and explain a little bit of what we did during this event, how much of it is normal for any kind of event we do, and what's special about this one, if there is anything special. I think it's important to note, because I've also had some folks tell me like, wow, you must really do well during an emergency. And while I do this because I think the work is important, I think it's useful to note for those who wanna know. So in the last 2 weeks, I did about 160 hours, and I'm an exempt employee. So if that's useful for folks to know, as my assistant EM is OT eligible. He put in 96 hours. He's expecting a baby though any day, so I try not to lean on him too much. Across other departments, there were approximately 558 hours that were given between week 1 and 2. And this does not include the time and efforts of first responders and dispatchers that dealt with about 270 public safety calls in the first 48 hours of the incident. 7 county departments additionally supported field damage surveys in the field that we had to do to get required data to the state OEM office, and that was about 50 hours of effort. In addition, we have 2 CERT teams in the county. Reedsport, CERT did not have to be activated, which was great. The coast was spared a little bit differently this time, which is awesome. Central CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, personally volunteered 35.75 hours, which was very helpful. I wanted to just really talk through some of the things that we did that with the Board of Commissioners and how that is both the same and maybe a little bit different depending on the event. So we activated the Emergency Operations Center. A declaration was issued in large fires. Sometimes this is a conflagration or sometimes a declaration or a conflagration might occur or be needed. We did multi-partner briefings. We requested state resources like technical personnel and supplies for public events. We did rapid damage assessments in large fires. This is often done by Oregon State Fire Marshal or a fire incident management team. This type of event is a little bit different. That resource isn't available to us, so we approach that differently. We pushed the self-report surveys. For local events, this isn't usually needed, but this was a wide area of impact across multiple jurisdictions, as we know. So we didn't want to miss anybody if we could help it, so the self-report survey push might have felt a little bit different. If it's just a town or a community being impacted, we can usually contact who we need to. There was triage of repairs on facilities and roads, like you heard, life safety needs first, of course. And then there's a triage of ongoing public requests that's gonna continue for quite some time. There's a lot of short-term immediate needs, midterm needs, long-term needs, and life safety needs first, of course. We activated the local COAD, that's the Community Organization Active in Disaster, and the long-term recovery group that is headed by Glide Revitalization. We stood up 8 mobile resource centers and moved them around. Again, that might have felt a little bit different, and that's because, and I keep bringing up fires because here people are most familiar with that type of event. But in fires, this is often met by a community meeting or a town hall, or maybe there's a couple of community meetings or town halls in which resources are brought. So it feels a little bit different, same purpose, we just approached it a little bit different this time. We requested Team Rubicon to come down and assist in home cleanups. They arrive tomorrow. And we're seeking public assistance, individual assistance, programs under the FSA, SBA, and funder-supported paths. Don't know what those look like yet. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers or the funds that people wish I had today. But we continue to try to work. And we're seeking state and federal level declaration support. I think it's important to note that in a widespread emergency like this, we have a lot of cross support to each other and we work alongside other folks. I wanted to allow people to absorb the amount and type and breadth of who was involved, and this likely isn't inclusive. As I was thinking about it this morning, I thought of a couple others. Oh, I forgot the ambulance companies, I forgot. Anyways, so my little disclaimer is this may not be all representative, but I think it's important to kind of look at who supported us, who continues to support us. Some of the first responders were activated right away in the beginning, and the goal of a response is to stabilize it enough that first responders can transition back to their normal day-to-day emergencies, and then the rest of us carry the stabilization to eventual recovery is the long-term goal. I am getting pulled to something else, but okay, all right, and that's all I have for right now, if that's all right.
Perfect, Emily, and I know some of the media is gonna want some of this information to have available later, but your sort of first big one, although we did do fire last summer, you and your team did amazing. The fact that we are carrying the emergency response into the recovery and there's no gap in that is new and unique. I love that that's what's happening, but most importantly, what is evident in your work is how much you care about the work you do and how much you care about the people that need your help. And that part is evident in the work that you do, and it's exactly why you're the right person in your role. So thank you for the work
You
do.
guys are the ones who supported me, so thank you for that. So I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll let you get to your next, I know you had at 10 o'clock. So I am gonna have the North Douglas Fire Chief come up. He had asked for just a minute. The reason for that is his unique role in that district covering multi-jurisdictions is just a great example of how the county works with the local communities and meets them where they are. Drain has an interim city administrator right now. You cover fire and emergency response in both of those cities, but also all the area around them. So I thought I'd give you just a couple minutes and allow you to give a quick report.
Commissioner Freeman, thank you. Brian Burke, Fire Chief, North Douglas County Fire and EMS. My day started, to give you a little history, North Douglas County Fire and EMS, our EMS response is roughly approximately 720 square miles. We're a combination department. I have 7 full-time staff, and we're supported by about 54 local volunteers right now. Of course, the day of this incident, I had, of my 7 staff, I had 1 on vacation, I had 1 with the flu, and I had 2 out for technical rescue training. So we were a little short-staffed with our paid staff. We ended up having 16 volunteers show up at Drain. I ended up staffing people at our Yoncalla station, and then we have another station out at Rice Hill that we had staff for and kind of pre-positioned, seeing that this event was coming. When I first pulled into town, I noticed flooding in the city of Yoncalla, and I did not have access from Yoncalla directly into Drain. The Eagle Valley Road had flooded over and it was no longer safe to drive. So we decided to route over to the freeway, go to Curtin and come into Drain that way. Yoncalla was hit first. I had a crew of our 16 that were out. We were able to launch one of our guys' drones and get some aerial pictures to see what we were doing. And then we set up our mini operations center at our department where we were doing road hazards and seeing what our priorities were. I think we were about maybe an hour into it, and Commissioner Freeman calls me and he says, "What do you need?" I'm like, "I don't know yet. Give me a second." So he's like, you call me? I think we were in contact throughout most of the day. Early on, we ended up doing, I think the first rescue we did, we were assisted with some cattle. Some livestock were stuck on the other side of a creek. They were able to get a boat out there. We helped herd some cattle into some lower water and get them back up to the barn, which was incredible for that family and their livelihood. Then we started to do some assessing. I was able to get a boat loaned to us, and then 2 other locals brought their own boats. And I think that was one of the asks, is I don't know where to put these people when we get out. We put them in the station, and within an hour or 2, Red Cross was being set up. That was the first ask, and I think I shared the story about us sequestering a boat. And then next thing I know, we'd done about 15 home evacuations with the boats we utilized, and then Marine. I said, I can't reach them all. The boats we have are either too small or too big. And next thing I know, Marine Patrol was able to assist with the rescues. Assistance that I didn't have. We were able to share our updates with the county. But any resource that I needed, it was quick, it was easy. If it was available, it was given to us. I think I started my day around 6:30 that morning, and my last call had to do with the slide at about 2:30 in the morning along I-5 that took a communication line down across Interstate 5. And we were able to handle that without any real disruption in traffic. So, and through this, you hooked us up with Team Rubicon. We got a housing grant too through a Senate bill a couple of years ago that we haven't even been able to move into. We just finished the permitting process and getting our final approval. I haven't even moved anybody in, but the timing is just perfect. You were a great help in guiding me through that, Commissioner Freeman, but the ability to use that house is where we're gonna end up housing Team Rubicon when they get here Thursday. So we have housing because of the work, again, of the commissioners and just the support. We'll be able to have that team help not just the city of Drain and Yoncalla, but they'll be able to do some work countywide. The fact that there's some people out there that think there isn't enough done, I don't know what else could have been done in this emergency. You guys were there for us. You're a great support to our community first, and then us as a department, obviously second. We evacuated an adult care home because of the flooding. I have 2 ambulances. Like I said, we're a small department. I have 2 ambulances that were staffed that day. One took about 12 hours just going back and forth, take a patient, take them to the hospital, because there's nowhere else to go. So one of our ambulances out of service to do that important move but it take about 12 hours. It's just time. While we're still maintaining the, what roads we can take and drive around town. And my report's a little different. I just want to thank you all for your support and what you did for our community. I've been on, unfortunately, it's been a Archie Creek, Douglas Complex, on and on the list that I've worked with you guys on over the years. And I don't know if you get enough thanks for what you do, but I truly support it. Our community supports it. We thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming down today and giving a quick report. I am so excited that you are in the role you're in for your community and for Douglas County. Your team up there of paid staff and volunteers took care of a very large area with a lot of impacts. And you did it in a way that made sure everybody was safe. And it is really great to have you up there. And the Team Rubicon Recovery Group, it's something we've read about, heard about. I've not experienced them. When they mentioned they were coming, it just seemed like a natural fit for your rural part of the county to use that resource. Hopefully they're effective and create value for you. We will, as with every emergency, do an after action report, and we will learn things we can do better next time. That's part of emergency management, is that if you sit around thinking about how to do everything perfect, you tend to do nothing. So, learning from responses and doing better next time is something we're all in, and we do every time. So thank you. Any questions of the chief?
Thank you. Appreciate you, Brian. Thank you.
So that's gonna wrap that up. I do wanna just say thank you. Emily put that list of all the partners up on the screen. And literally each of those organizations, when we called, the commissioners at one point, we took on the role of calling, connecting with the city administrators and or their designee for emergency management to make sure we're all connected. And those people all answered the phone on Sunday. I mean, it's amazing how all these community partners just stepped up and continue to step up during these emergencies and help us. We live in a great place in the world, and I'm proud of the work that everybody's done and continues to do.